touched me in many ways. And so I'm very, very happy to have an opportunity to have something that I could do with Bradley, because I have such tremendous respect for the products that they put out. I'd like to then go to Mitchell. I will say this to you. I didn't have the pleasure, other than from afar. I love sports, so obviously I knew who Mitchell Anderson was when he was playing at Bradley, but I didn't really know him, and I never really saw him play the game. So I can't really recount all of the great things that he did when he was here. I'd like to go to something which I feel, on top of being a great athlete, I run into the greatest of the great athletes. I can tell you, there isn't any greater person that I have ever run into with the NBA than Mitchell Anderson. And I think that's the proudest thing to say for him. I have never, ever seen him not be a gracious person. I've never seen him not be a positive person. I could go on and give you a lot of superlatives about him. All I can say to you is, to me, he epitomizes the word gentleman. He's gentle, and he is truly a man. And he basically is really a remarkable man. And I can only tell you, it gives me tremendous pleasure to have had the opportunity, Coach, to be involved in doing something, a little something, to show Mitchell how much he really means to me, and quite frankly, to hundreds, if not thousands, of other people around the country and around the world. He's touched a lot of people. And so I think that I will leave it at that. I just want to tell you that I am proud to be associated with Bradley, and I'm proud to be further associated with Mitchell. Thank you so much.
Andrew Warren and the second generation Maniscalco, represented here today, Sammy, are going to unveil a print for you, Mr. Heisley, and for Mitchell, of this facility. Accept this on behalf of Bradley University as our token of our small way of saying thank you. Gentlemen. And Maddie, Dodie Dunson, our senior, this is for you. I remember in that infamous tape, Tale of the Tomahawk Gang, where you gave your son the biggest kiss after the last game against Tulane, the final game in the field house. You haven't changed a bit. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for giving us your son to represent Bradley University. We are truly blessed, as I know that you are. Before I bring in Double D, I remember when your number was retired on that evening, and the first, you got on the microphone, he had this big grin, as always, and he said, when I first came to Robertson Memorial Fieldhouse and I looked at all of the banners and the retired jerseys, first of all, he was glad that he never played at Carver Arena, and said so. And he said, from the first day I looked around here, I said, I want my number to be up there and hang forever at Robertson Memorial Fieldhouse. And then he realized that he was at Carver Arena, and he said, but this'll do. And you can see number 11 each and every time you go downtown. His very good friend and Bradley alum, who helps Mitchell in putting on his camp, to providing for those in our community that wouldn't have the opportunity to attend a basketball camp, to have screening, dental screening, and medical attention. It's all because of these two gentlemen and support, obviously, from the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, you'll have to listen real close, because Dana talks very fast. The only other person that I can remember that talks as fast as Dana is Don King. But you can understand Dana. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Memphis Grizzlies and Bradley University, Double D, Dana Davis.
They said slow down. Now, first I want to thank God for having Big Fella with us. For those of you who don't know, 2 years ago he had a stroke, and he's doing very well. So I'm a little emotional right now because this was some hard days back in the day, and to come to see this. But the president mentioned one word, imagine, that resonated with me. Because imagine, I got a degree from here. I never thought that would happen, but it happened. And I'm very proud to be a part of this program, and as well as being a part of Bradley University. Mitchell, I asked Mitchell last night, I said, what do you want me to say? I said, what do you want on your behalf? I'm supposed to be talking on his behalf for the most part. And he said, shit, you always talk for me anyway. You always answer my questions. Why you want to get some questions from me now? So that's the honest truth. So one thing I want to do, I want to recognize his teammates. He was asked to go into the Hall of Fame, and he said, I would not go unless my teammates go with me the first time. So I see Willie, I see Barney, stand up if you would, Donald, Cisco, I see Rick somewhere, Rick Malnati, and anybody else I missed, Coach Stowe, Coach Versace, Coach Peroni, Pierre in the back. Pierre is a gifted athlete that didn't get a chance to show his talents to Bradley, but he's very close to the family with the teammates here at Bradley as well. So those are the people that kind of we gathered around while we were here after he came to Bradley. I graduated, and he came in the next year, and then I worked for 1 year for Dick, kind of helping him out, doing things. That's why I met Mitchell about 30-some years ago, and we created a bond that is hard to break. As Heisley would say, and other people, we're kind of opposites. I'm up and down. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I'm hollering and telling jokes. Mitchell's been like this for 30-some years. He's just been like this. It's not his head. Okay, whatever you say. So those are things that how we get along. So we've been able to get through the years, and I'm just reflecting back on the hospital when he was sick, and I'm so happy that he's here. So Mitch, I got to introduce you. I ain't got a whole much more to say, but this is my brother.
I can't talk much because I had a stroke, so I want to thank my mother, my friends, my relatives, my teammates, my coaching staff, all the fans, Bradley University, Dana, and Mike. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Braves lead by 5. Roadrunner with the basketball, yo-yo dribble, comes across the timeline, gives to Barney, gold mines, takes a look inside, kicks it in to DR, Donald Reese, kicks it back out. He's a good assist man. Very good on the post. Now looks opposite side. Willie has the ball in a yo-yo dribble, finds Mitchell down on the block, baseline drive, kaboom for Mitchell. J. Anderson.
couple of Double D stories. You know, one of my favorites is Double D. Unless you know him for a long time, he talks and he talks fast. You have no idea what he's saying. You just don't know what he's saying. So one day, Mitchell and I were together, and Dana was excited about something. So he was going, Coach, you know, I turned to Mitchell. I said, Mitchell, what did he say? He goes, you think because I'm black I understand? But, you know, I recognized, you know, when Mike Heisley asked me to help him get the Grizzlies started, you know, I turned to some people from this community who I knew were sharp and who I knew were terrific people. And it was really gratifying, and is still to this day gratifying to see they're all still with Mike. Tony Baroni's still with Mike. You know, because in the NBA there's always changes. You know, all you got to do is read the paper every day. But these guys have been a constant for Mike, and I am just always thrilled to see the relationship between Mike Heisley and my guys develop and continue. Now, when you coach basketball, Al McGuire used to say to me, you know, you can't coach too long. And I said, why is that? And he said, well, because your family gets too big, you know, your extended family, because your players, you know, when you're coaching them, you become like family. And then some of them just go off on their own and do great. Others call you, you know, and say, I need help. And one particular player went off on his own. He went off and played professional basketball for about 9 years in Europe and South America. Then he came back and he started a custom clothing business, which became a huge success. He was his own boss, and we stayed in touch a little bit, not a lot, but just, you know, when he'd call, I would always be glad to hear from Willie Scott. What you doing? Poop poop, like that. And then, of course, I had to buy a bunch of suits. We even tried to get Mike Heisley to wear one of Willie Scott's suits, and that was a challenge. And but he ended up having some very high-end customers like George Benson and Louis Farrakhan and Michael Jackson. So he designed clothes for some pretty high-end people. And one day I got a call from Will, and he said, I'm missing basketball. I'm missing it. I said, Willie, you're going to change directions now? And he said, yeah, I'm going to. And if you don't know Willie, when he puts his mind to something, you can just forget it. He's going to do it. So he said, can you maybe give this guy at Jackson State a call and see if I can, you know, because his mom was down in Jackson, and he went down to be with his mom. She wasn't feeling well. And so then he, somehow, I don't know how he did it, he talked his way onto the staff at Jackson State. So then, about a year later, I get another call, and he said, I've just been named the head coach of Malcolm X Junior College. I go, how'd you do that? Well, it's a long story, but he's amazing when he puts his mind to something. He's absolutely amazing. So he said, will you help me? And I said, help you how? And he said, well, you know, I've never been a head coach. I just was an assistant coach for 1 year, and I've never been a head coach. I said, well, what do you want to know? He goes, well, you know, to be honest with you, when do you stand up and call timeout? He says, I knew as a player, but as a coach, when do you stand up and call timeout? I said, Willie, you don't. You make the other guy call timeout. You use his timeout.